Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Jim Ristuccia. Jim spent over 20 years as a US Naval officer, then went to found his own company and serve as COO. And now he chairs two Vistage peer groups here in San Diego. One for CEOs of companies of 5 million and above, where they're building their C-suite and second line of leadership, and one for small business owners between the 1 and 10 million range, who are building their first layer of managers. Now, there's something about a 20-year naval officer sitting across a CEO peer group that I find it hard to replicate anywhere in the consulting world. Jim's whole mission, the through line from Navy to founder to Vistage Chair, is to help CEOs have better lives. And how he does that is through the rooms that he creates, where founders, when they go into that room with each other, they can't go in there to just perform to each other. They're there to grow, and they're there to be honest and transparent. And he's able to see conversations that very few do. In late 2024, one of the Vistage speakers opened up something in the group that ignited one of his members, an IP attorney, and took it seriously. The attorney took his entire team through AI bootcamps and then fast-paced future. They are now 3 times more productive personally, and their revenue grew 50 to 60% in the first year. Jim watched that happen in real time, and he's also tracking and measuring which CEOs are sitting on AI, they're laggards, or there might be real-world friction. And we discussed the real-world adaptation and the friction with AI across different industries and what's actually happening. We'll dive deep into the adoption gap across CEOs, leadership teams, and broader workforce, and the AI champion model that's showing up in the groups that are actually moving and implementing AI. Now, with that said, let's dive into it. Jim, you've been chairing Vistage groups in San Diego for a while now. For someone who's never been in a group or know that model, what actually happens in the room? How is this different from just like a mastermind or a peer group? What's actually happening in the room when you're there?
It's all about the decisions that happened in the room and you get your perspective, uncover blind spots. And that's really the difference. Could be somewhat closest. Mastermind is probably the closest. Most people think it's like networking. And I'm bringing a business card because I want to like develop some sort of relationship, some sort of sale. But it's like, you have a peer support system where people who know you really well and want you to succeed, and they're going to do everything they can to help you succeed.
It's almost like it's like a working session when there is an outcome, like a decision to be made or something to chew on at the end of the session, or
Very
do you
much.
usually leave? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, there's a couple of areas to go in. So we do actually exercises where we're like digging deep into certain issues. We're bringing in subject matter experts who are like really high expertise in their field. I mean, really well-known people from all over the country, all over the world, in fact. But the real core of Vistage is what we call our issue processing. And that's the secret sauce. That's where people are bringing decisions, opportunities, and challenges that they have. It's the thing that, okay, at 4 a.m, I wake up and like, what am I thinking about? Like, that's the thing we need to bring to the Vistage group. It's like, oh my God, this employee is not performing, or my cash flow is really low, or, I'm thinking about doing a new launch. Have we thought of everything? Like any of those type of things. And you bring that to your group and you put that on the table. And then we start asking you a lot of questions. And then the questions start becoming really uncomfortable. If you're going to grow, hopefully it's going to be uncomfortable, because if you have the answers to everything, then it's not the right
boring,
talk. Yeah. And that just uncovers where the gaps are and what you need to work on.
Yeah, that's key. You're pushing for the discomfort. So just so we understand, because we're going to dive into like where like the new tech, AI, compute is coming into the conversation, just so we can understand the mix of the groups that you're currently leading. Like what types of industries and size of the companies are you currently working with?
Well,
That you see in the group.
I have 2 main groups, which are the ones in Vistage. I have a chief executive group, which is like 5 million in revenue and above, really developing a C-suite. They have developing their second line managers. So the CEOs can really be detached and work on the strategic level things. And then I have a small business group, which is like 1 to 10 million in range, but they're just developing their first line managers. They're still getting their procedures going, kind of figuring out how to get through those first milestones in a business. So you get to 1 million, you get to like 3 million, 5 million. How do you evolve through those early stages? Only, I think, this 2% of the companies at 1 million, something like that, make it to 10 million. It's a really small number. So we help them get through that level.
No, I like that. So when did because a lot of the work that you published, that you talked about, like AI champions and what you're seeing with managers or leaders, and the work that we're doing as well, when did AI start coming up consistently in the groups? Like what are some of the topics, or when did it actually start hitting like, hey, this is something we should take serious?
We had a speaker come in, Ross Hartman with Kingo back in September of 23,
Mm.
24, I think it was, or 24. And that just really opened up the aperture of like, oh my God, we really need to spend some time on this. And we really need to look at it. And different members are at kind of at different speeds. I have
Yeah.
one that's IP law firm, and he just totally leaned into it because they're into the tech space. They have AI companies, but he put his people through boot camps. They really championed that within the company. He said he personally has his productivity is 3x, and the company revenue is up 50, 60% in the first
Wow.
year after doing that. So a demonstrable impact on using AI tools to assist them. I have other people leaned into the AI on the sales, lead gen, that sort of area. Other ones still are just still kind of in that ChatGPT, Claude, asking it like a
Mm.
search engine type of thing. So you get people across the spectrum, but we bring examples into the group. We talk about the examples. I give them examples of to show them different things that you can do with it. So we try to highlight that. We had another speaker on AI in February. So I'm just going to be getting into this kind of a regular rotation of bringing AI speakers, AI topics into people.
Well,
What
and
we,
that's interesting.
the
I'm
speaker
sorry.
is you have to have an AI use policy because that dovetails really well with everything we're talking about. Vistage is about having clarity around the things that you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a key topic, and I'm actually having someone else in the legal side come on the podcast to talk about that. And I think you mentioned something that I want to dive into more on the macro level is that what separates the founders who are thinking about and moving and leveraging AI versus those who are waiting, like, hey, maybe we should do this next quarter, or maybe we should talk about it this next year. Like, what's really is it a mindset level? Is it the decision making patterns? Is it like the identity of who they are? Is it the industry? Like, what's the delta? Like, why is there a difference between those who are leaning and those might not as be leaning in as it?
Yeah, I think it probably is all the above. It's like how much time
Mm.
do they have? How much benefit do they think they're going to get out of it? They don't know really what to do with it. How do I actually do it? Because you need to develop your own internal use cases of success. Hey, we used
Yeah.
it for this, and now I have this output. In the peer group, you can see because the guy sitting next to you is talking about 50% increase in revenue because he's implemented AI. That should get your attention. Okay, yeah. Then like the other person hired someone to do the sales lead gen, and that's been super successful for them. And they were like not doing any technology at all before that. So that was like a good success by just learning from your peers. But internally in the company, and Vistage is spending a lot of effort, time on that. That's part of the Vistage. We get the research and seeing what they're doing. They provide a lot of monthly webinars on AI, but they're seeing about 80% of CEOs are leaning in and doing AI. Like they're messing around with
Mm.
AI. They're doing Claude. They're doing ChatGPT. They're
Oh, that
experimenting
was
with.
the other good. Yeah.
Their leadership teams are a notch below that. They're probably like around 60% penetration that the leadership teams are actually doing something with AI. And then the actual worker bees are below 50%. So there's this disconnect,
Interesting.
the top of what they're doing and then what the employees are doing. But the employees see it as a threat. If they don't understand it, they see it as this could take my job. The best scenarios, I mean, the scenarios that resonate with me, what Ross told me was, I've heard from other people, is that you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by somebody who uses AI.
Hmm. Yeah. So one of the things there too that like so one of the areas that I talk about is that I think there's business models that are going to expire. That's something that I've been talking about to the audience and also developing IP around. Like the idea that the business model that you ran with for the last 10 years, excuse me, is under structural pressure, either from cost on the back end, from value, from go to market, or from the value prop itself. Are you seeing those conversations show up in the groups? Are founders to kind of discussing that, or are they mostly focusing on use cases like practical terms? Here's what I can do today.
I'm seeing them more on the use cases. This is what I can do today. This is how I can do it. And it comes more into the large language model options to like help with marketing, help with they're not getting into the agentic stuff as much as it's like right there. It's kind of been really close coming up. I think Claude's doing a lot to push that forward. Um,
Hmm.
and the people are dabbling in that, but I haven't seen like major structural changes on AI. I know one of the challenges is you have to be AI ready. In most
Yeah.
companies, I saw a statistic that only like 5% of companies are really truly AI ready. And they're more at the enterprise, larger type of company, which doesn't really fit the
Yeah.
model for San Diego companies. Because San Diego is a startup. type environment, 50 to 150 people compared to like, a 500,000 person type of company. They have more resources to bear. Their systems are already more digitized compared to the smaller companies. And you need to
Oh,
have that
interesting.
throughput of connection to be able to have the AI be able to do all the functions that you want it to do. If you want set up multiple agents to be able to accomplish a task, it has to all be digital for it to be able. If it goes to a paper form, well, the AI's stops. There's the friction in the process.
That's interesting because I'm seeing the opposite. That I'm seeing that the leaner and the tighter that you are, the faster you can adopt and actually implement and get value pretty quickly.
If you have the mentality, but that's in the tech space. If
Yeah, it's true.
if I'm not in the tech space, if I'm in a car repair business or a car modification space, I'm not thinking tech. If it depends what space. That's why my IP attorney, he does patents and he's in the tech space, so he gets it.
He's able. Yeah.
He's able. He's understanding that's really his customers demand that because that's the ecosystem he's operating in. But if you're a plumber or doing something tangible, it's not as in your face and it's not readily accessible.
So that's why I wanted to bring you on the pod because you're actually seeing it firsthand with these peer groups. So one of the key areas that you're focusing on is there's a obvious leadership gap. Like the higher that you are on the totem pole, the more that you're able to see it, and but the lower. This is again not to classify people, but again, you're like, oh, it's going to replace me, and there are that real instance. That's a real thing because there are instances where companies say, hey, build out this AI workflow, and then from there they're fired 6 months later, which is it's a real thing. It's not a false narrative. So there's that happening. The change management with the people is one of the key areas that I think is making AI adoption. Is that's the biggest hurdle in my opinion. The second is what you just mentioned on the technology, vectorizing those things, putting it into a database, doing the transformation. But then the third is also knowing the use cases. How are you combining those three like variables? The human aspect, the leadership aspect, some of the task aspect. But I think the tech can be easily solved. It's actually easier than the human part in my opinion. And then also the actual use cases. How are you leading teams through that besides just bringing in speakers? Like what are the tangible either exercises or ideas that we can bring home here so that we can understand how to work through this internally or when we're working with clients?
At this stage, because like in the Vistage, we're bringing the subject matter experts as speakers. They know about it more than that I would do it. And our focus is just to bring awareness to our job is not to like provide the nitty gritty details of like how you would do something, but it's to get the CEOs thinking around how can I make this work in my organization, to try to get them to shift their mindset. Oh, this is something I need to pay attention to. And like, where would I put my energy into those things? And then bringing up really the use cases of, okay, this company did this, maybe I could do that. Or if you take company A and company B, how could you combine what they did and you do it your way that's going to make sense for you on those things? That's really the value that we bring because they might not be connected with companies to do that. It's hard to go through that chaff. There's a lot of noise around AI. Everyone's an expert. You get certifications, take this course. It's harder to
Yeah.
know what's real and what's not real as far as what's going to give you value.
What would be some of the exercises or some of the mental models that you help founders or leaders go through to understand what is real, what isn't real, or where the real value is?
Just again, coming to the use cases of what you can do, how it can help you, how can it save you time. I did this and I saved, normally it would take me 2 hours to do this and I did it in 15 minutes. And how did you do that?
Yeah,
Oh, I had a really good prompt. What's a prompt? Let's talk about creating a prompt and how you do that. Cause you have to like understand how to do the prompt engineering to set it up so that you're going to get a
it's
better
part of it. Yeah.
return. It's not just a search engine, that's older stuff. That's what we talked about, but it's still people, they need the repetition on how to do it successfully.
Yeah,
And
you have to actually use it and spend money to know the value because you're right. It's a search engine to prompt and to agents and then to automated workflows and then to proactive workflows.
all
You
scaffolding,
you
building on these skills and then you mentioned on the people are the harder part because you have to train the
yeah.
people to do this and you have to motivate them and make them feel safe that if they're going to be doing this, that their job is going to be secure. So it's like the leadership aspect of AI,
It's the
like how
hardest part. That is the hardest part.
is the leader enabling this and that it's a good thing for the company and getting them motivated. That's stuff that we talk about as well. Like how you approach it to them. You can't just say, oh, we're just going to do AI right now. Just go ahead and do this. Like then you have to make it more
You just
entertaining.
push it.
You want to use a carrot, not a stick to like get them to do what you want them to do.
So let's double click on that because you mentioned that you have to have an internal champion either at the leadership level or at the manager level for this to be adopted. How are you seeing leaders effectively create like real change and adoption of AI in their organizations?
Yeah, it's this idea that was shared with me is you have anytime you need a change, you want to have a champion who can be that change. And AI is not in a specific area. You tend to think it's like, oh, it's technology, we'll give it to IT, but IT doesn't understand the process. And the
Mm,
idea or AI is you want to short circuit the process. You want it to do the process. So you have to map out your processes. So independent, is that a financial process? Is that a human resources process? Is it an operational process? Is it a marketing process? Whatever your process is, you need to understand the process. And the IT is not going to do that. So that's why you need people embedded in the areas that you want to change and the overall. So you need expertise in those areas. Interesting, we had a speaker come last month and he was talking about winning the war for talent. What do you do for talent? And
mm.
the reason people leave companies is because they're not challenged. They feel like they've learned all that they can learn. And now they're just like, well, I want to learn something more, especially the younger generation with millennials and Gen Z. They really want to learn. They really value learning, as opposed to like baby boomer or Gen X, where it's like, go ahead and do this. And it's like, we're happy to have a job. We're doing what we're told, but they're like asking more of the why question. So they want to know those things. But the champion like dovetails in that exactly. And that speaker that talked about the winning in the war for talent, he's like, when you get to someone like 3 years, make them an expert, domain expert in some area. Have a conversation and find out what they're interested in, what they want to spend some time on. And then you do like Google, okay, you got like 5 hours a week to spend time on this thing. I expect you to learn this and then come back and then you're going to be the champion in the company and learn this. So you could have a large language model expert, or you could have a Claude expert and a ChatGPT expert. You could have an agentic expert. You could have someone doing all that as the champion. So they're becoming the domain expert within the company.
How have you seen teams like actually implement that? Are they doing that like per domain expert, or are they doing like a board from different departments come together to collaborate on that? Like, how are you seeing your groups actually tangibly execute that?
Well, the smaller companies, you get pretty much it's just one person. One person's like,
Okay.
hey, you're gonna be the AI champion, and like, let's say a 15, 20 person company. The larger companies, like 100 people, then you'd have like a committee. You'd have like get a couple of people from different departments. So a couple of my members have done that. So I've seen that success, and it's the leadership, empowering them and making sure that they have the support. That it's not just oh, I have an idea, go out and do it, and then you don't give them the support on it. But you really have to like help them and make sure that they have the imprimatur, so to speak, from the CEO, that everyone knows that this is important, that we're going to be moving on this and we want to see some traction. And the real traction is get a real world use case that's a success story in the company. We implemented this. We saved X amount of time. This is the benefit of this. This is why we should do it. Oh, okay. Now I need your processes. I need a process. What's your low hanging fruit? Your 80 or your 80/20. You're getting 80% of return on just 20% of these processes. Let's pick the number one or two process and we'll map that out and we'll see if we can create an agent around that, or how can we eliminate steps in that area using the tools.
The way that you're measuring success right now, it sounds like it's a lot of the metric of time savings. Are there any other teams or leaders that are measuring anything else besides just time?
The time is the big one because you can say, look, it took me X about before. And
Like the easiest, right?
yeah, and you get a sense of how much the productivity is. The one who's the intellectual property, they're unique because they're billing. Typically, lawyers bill on hours, or they have projects, and they understand how long their projects take, and then they're seeing that it's happening a lot quicker, so they're able to get more work done, and then obviously their revenues have gone up in that time frame.
Okay, so it's a little bit of just focusing on time right now, which I think is a good starting point. But is anyone measuring like new ways to do things or any new revenue to come through besides just like the increased total revenue? Or is our leaders just fixated right now, like, oh, this is time savings because it's the lowest hanging fruit to measure?
Mine are just focused on the lowest hanging fruit. Like, how can I save time? What's this going to save me time on? What things?
I
I
love
like
that.
some of the stuff is on the learning too, which is a different end of it. On like, you use like Notebook LM and you have like a book and you can create a podcast. If you're a auditory learner, you can create a podcast for yourself on a topic that you want, or you can create
Mhm.
visuals of that, or I think that's an area that's interesting as well. But I don't know if it's as easy to measure the return on the investment on that one.
You measure return on consumption. Yeah, I think there's three metrics that I've been measuring. Obviously, the first one is time saving, but I correlate that to productivity. One of the things I have my agents do is to actually measure like what did I accomplish today. And on a good day, like pre AI, I would be able to do like 6 big things in a day, maybe 13, like actual like push things forward. And then now, like every day, it's at a minimum 30, 40, in some cases 70 to 90 things in a day. So I'm measuring that. The other measure obviously is revenue, like how much net new value we're creating, as well as what, because this one is more less tangible. It's like, how did we create something that we couldn't do before for clients? And how would we price that in the past? So the net new value would equal X amount per revenue per month. So I think it's not like lack of measurements, but it's just like it's the easiest thing to see how am I more productive, and then gearing that productivity to revenue generating activities.
Yeah, you can look at how much, what did you get done at the end of the day? How many more things did you do compared to if you had to do it all, how you used to do it? What would you
Yeah,
get?
help me walk through the mindset of the culture. So the teams that are adopting, obviously they're enforced and like their clients demand it of them. But I'm just thinking of like the clients that are listening to this and or the teams that are listening to the podcast and like the average businesses like they're stuck in the day to day. They're doing a lot of work. They don't have either anyone to implement it or they have a champion right now. But what are some of the mindsets that you've seen successfully implement from the leaders down versus hey, this is important, but in terms of communicating to that team? Because you mentioned earlier that hey, maybe someone in the manager role or the person at the junior entry might be threatened by it. What are some of the like winning mindsets to transform the org's culture to view this as something positive versus negative? Also, by the way, in the United States, we have the lowest sentiment on AI as well, which is something that is hopefully going to change, but we have a negative sentiment towards it.
Yeah, people feel threatened. So that to me is really is the leadership part and creating that psychological safety within the company so that their employees feel that they're going to be safe by doing this. And they're going to feel that's going to be productive and to show them that this it's just a net positive. There's not going to be a negative on there. And obviously there's going to be dislocation because there's going to be certain jobs that are going to go away. But like, how do I transition those employees to do something different? How do I get those employees to adapt to a different job or a different job function? And maybe they'll just be overseeing a whole host of agents and I can create more opportunity. We've seen this in the past with technology innovation. It creates jobs. It doesn't take the jobs away or else we wouldn't be working right now with all the changes that we've had
Oh
with
yeah, no,
computer.
yeah. There's yeah. I'm not a doomer, but in terms of like, what are your leaders actually saying? Like, what are the action plans or the approaches that they're taking with their team to create that safety, to train, or what are the narratives that they're taking that's working?
It's really from they have to they have to make it a positive experience. They have to be engaged in it as well. So the first step is that's why we're seeing that 80% at the top, the CEOs are
Mhm.
engaged in because we're telling them in Vistage that you got to be involved with it. You need to know what it is and what the capabilities are. You can't just keep it hands off and then expect your team to do it. You're not going to be supporting them or understanding what the implications could be for the company and where the opportunities could be of how you could adapt. And that's really the key for the company is like the companies have to adapt. So the leaders have to be the forefront of that adaptation. So how are we going to incorporate that in there? What's our new reality? How do I orient myself to this new reality that I have this tool and what can I do with this tool to speed up my tempo so that I can get past my competitors and I can get to my customers quicker and
Yeah.
provide what my customers are expecting.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm seeing as well, and on top of that, is not only just the leader or the CEO actually actively playing or dabbling or actually building stuff, and but obviously it's not production ready. It's not like safe to put. Some of them are not safe to put into your actual organization if you're doing like 20
No,
million. But one of my clients, they're looking at not just okay, cool, you got the agent, but they're looking at okay, what's the compliance like for the team that's actually using it? How are we doing this compliantly? Who's complying to like the actual use case? Where do we track like API costs and making sure who's using what? Are we building like a shared database or a pool of knowledge that when one person learns, the other person already compounds that learning so the organization as a whole learns? And then on top of that, once you have that, then you can actually do, okay, here's some of the agents or the workflows that we can leverage to execute some of the work. In terms of the discussion, which is a real discussion, I think there's going to be some turbulent times, could be a couple of years before there's stability. There is going to be job transition, job loss. How are your leaders preparing for that? Or have your leaders seen that firsthand yet?
they haven't seen it, and I don't think they're really preparing for that. They're not they're thinking that through. I know my attorney's thinking he's the one who's thinking about it because he doesn't see his other attorneys as his competitor. He sees Claude as his competitor because he sees that
Mm.
Claude is going to create the workflows, or the other LLMs are going to create, or some sort of form of AI is going to create a competition for the stuff that he's doing, because it's all intellectual capital that they have, it's all paper stuff that they're doing, and doing research and evaluating and making, documentation to support what all that they're doing. So you can use those tools to do that, but it still takes someone to review it. You have to have someone reviewing it.
You
So there has
still
to
have
be a
to
person in
review
the
it.
loop for it.
Yeah.
So do you replace it and you have less people, or do you have more people doing more work and you just create more revenue? And did you find
Mm.
other areas? I challenged him. It's like, okay, you do this narrow niche. Like, what if you were the expert in AI, can you expand in other areas and just teach them how to expand in other areas? That's like an
Mm.
opportunity as well.
So he's actually facing the real pressure from the business model because actually discussing like how do I look at this? Yeah, there's the way that I thought about it too. There's four different ways to price. One is like just right now what you're seeing is the margin play. Can I do things the same way with less cost and less overhead, and then I get more margin? Like that's like level one. But then the question becomes: is it a volume play? If I'm able to productize this, can I go for volume and then price on outputs, or price by leveraging my IP to deliver? So the agents deliver the IP, or do I do a performance play where I capture the value and I take a cut of that value? It's a real where he's at is I think where maybe we're too far into the future thinking about it, but that's one of the things that I've been forecasting is that there are a lot of business models that are going to face this either by force or naturally, where you're going to have to really rethink your business model. To contrast that, one of our my friends, he's running an agency. They're doing like fundraising right now, but they're delivering it's like a hybrid play. So the 70% of the delivery is agentic, but the last 30% is like concierge, and they're
Mm.
charging like 10 to 40K a month because of the value and the outcome that they perform. And that's only because of their positioning. If they didn't have that concierge human in the loop support for their end clients, then it would be a volume play, and the product price model would be cheap. So there's a lot of dynamics there to think about. I mean, you're in the field, you're talking to founders in real life, you're actually seeing where they're at. You're also obviously measuring what's the cadence, what's coming down the pipe. How much do you think is like the real pressure to really rethink business models versus just adopting the technology? And I know a lot of people aren't there yet, but where's your thinking at, Jim, in terms of how to rethink how we operate in this new I don't know if it's a new era, a new economy, but just with a new tech.
It depends on the time frame, because without a doubt, in my mind, this is like revolutionary of how it's going to change things, because it is going to have significant dislocations. It's going to have significant opportunities of how we do things. I like the model. Okay, I'm doing the agentic, so you got machine doing it, but then I'm doing concierge, so high level customer service. People like high level customer service. It depends on who your customer is, because maybe they just want to
Yeah.
deal with a
All the
machine.
positioning.
Gen Zs want to just deal with a machine, but like boomers, I want to talk to somebody and I want them to hold my hand through it. So it depends on the customer there. But in the short term, I mean, there's a lot of hype around it. If you're in the tech space, like, oh, it seems like, oh my God, this is so crazy. But when I'm dealing with my members that are still dealing with mechanical things and, you know, producing things, manufacturing things, it's slower change. There's a lot more friction. Are they AI ready? What's it take to become AI ready? What's it take to get the workforce trained around that? That's going to take a long time. I think it's going to take longer than people are expecting.
Yeah.
Without doubt, the technology is going to move fast, but I don't know if the people are going to be able to move as fast. But to me, the winners are going to be the ones who are able to adapt quicker to this and understand how to make this tool work for them. And that's where the huge opportunity is, utilizing these tools in the way that's going to become most productive for the employees. The employees are going to implement it in some way, and that's going to
Mm.
create the ultimate value. I don't see it. I don't see a lot of companies with like what would be 100 people and there's only like 2 people running the company and all agents. I mean, there could be some use cases for that, but the vast majority of companies are not going to have something like that. It's going to be make something. If I'm a florist, I still got to put flowers together, but it could help my
Yeah.
order system. I could be more streamlined and I could have a good communication system with my customers that everything kind of cascades and that whole thing takes care of itself. I don't even have to have someone answer the phone, because I can have an agent virtual assistant take that. But someone's still got to create the flower arrangements and put it together and cut them and clean up the store and do those sort of things.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's two things that I want to highlight before we close, but I think that reframe that empowering your front level employees, because that's going to be the real change. I think that's very powerful. The other thing is that you're right, like the companies with like 100,000, like 1,000 500 employees. Like for this to change, it's not going to be overnight. And hopefully when they adapt and leverage it, I think they're going to create more net new value where they're going to be able to increase revenue, and maybe they may not be hiring more, but with that team, they're able to do more. And then to the point of the small businesses that you and I work with, at least part of your practice works with them, like 2 to like 20, 30, 50 employees. The way that I see it for them, and this is what I'm actually seeing like on the ground, is even if it's a team of 5, they're able to execute as if there were a team of 25 or 30, maybe even 50 in some cases. So I think it's to your point, leverage the tool, adopt it, see where it goes. But Jim, for everyone of our listeners out there, where's the best place for people to reach out to you and thank you for being on?
That's my website. It's just my name, jimristuccia.com. That's JIMRISTUCCIA.com.
Right.
And
Well, Jim, we'll put that link in the show notes. Thank you again for being on.
Raul, this was great. I really appreciate it. Fun conversation.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to get more of these podcasts, please go ahead and subscribe to wherever you're watching or listening to the pod. If you have any suggestions or questions that you want me to answer on the pod, or you have a guest that you want me to interview, please go ahead and email me all of your suggestions and questions at podcast@dogoodwork.io. That's podcast@dogoodwork.io. If you'd like to give me public feedback, you can go on Apple Podcasts, and from there you can leave up to a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate that. If you like more free resources where you can get my best strategies to help you increase your company's performance and scale profitably, you can get handpicked articles to propel your growth, and you can get trainings and discussions that I give freely online, as well as low-cost resources such as my books and guides, you can get all of that by going to dogoodwork.io/resources. 90% of all of these resources are not behind any email opt-in, so you can get instant access by going to dogoodwork.io/resources. Now, if you'd like to accelerate your progress and shorten the gap between information and action and start seeing results in your business, let's work together to increase your company's performance and scale profitably and serve more clients without the overwhelm. You can request a free clarity call to see how we can best support you to reach your goals by going to dogoodwork.io/apply. Again, that's dogoodwork.io/apply. As always, it's an honor to be a small part in your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.